Hey guys, so we're going to do our young adult book talk here. We're going to start off with this book. So, I've heard that Yaki Delgado wants to kick your ass. So begins Petey's first day of 10th grade in Yaki Delgado Wants to Kick Your Ass by Meg Medina. Petey's in a new school and in a new neighborhood, and suddenly she is told that Yaki Delgado wants to kick her ass. The thing is, she has no idea why Yaki Delgado wants to kick her ass because she doesn't even know who Yaki Delgado is. The funnier thing that she finds is that Yaki thinks that she shakes her ass too much when she walks. And this is new to her because, according to Petey, she doesn't even have an ass to shake, so she finds this shocking. Suddenly, Petey feels herself alone and threatened by this clique of girls. She misses Mitzi and Joey from her previous school. Mitzi was her BFF, who she used to share everything with, and now suddenly Mitzi's not available because she has a new group of friends that she's hanging out with, and Petey has no idea who these people are. The other person that she really misses is Joey. Joey was her friend in the other school, and he and her share similar dad issues. Joey's dad always gets drunk and beats him and beats his mom. And so he doesn't really like him much. And Petey doesn't really like her dad either, even though she's never even met him. His name is Agustin, and he is an alleged two-timer who abandoned her family. But even though she knows these facts, she is still very confused as to what actually happened because her mother always shrouds the information with a cloud of mystery whenever she brings up her dad. And so she really wants to meet him so she can figure out herself what he's really like, and more importantly, so she can feel like a normal child who has a dad. And so what should be a typical high school experience is going to end up being actually quite a sour one because suddenly Petey is being threatened by this bully called Yaki along with her gang of friends. So, will her friends come and support her even though they're not at the same school anymore? And will Yaki really beat her up? And will Petey find her dad? Find out when you read Yaki Delgado Wants to Kick Your Ass by Meg Medina. Have you seen the movie Wonder or read the book? In it, the main character looks differently than everybody else. And in this graphic biography, El Defo by Cece Bell, Cece, our main character, has a similar issue where people treat her differently, and all she wants is for them to treat her normal. Cece was a normal child who used to watch TV with her family, hang out with her siblings, love to sing, and do silly things that 3-year-olds like to do. But when she was 4 years old, she was diagnosed with meningitis. This meningitis caused her to become deaf. So suddenly, her life is really confusing, and she gets sent to a preschool where she learns how to lip read. Now, lip reading comes in really handy when somebody's looking at you and face to face, but when somebody's turned away, it gets really awkward, and it makes things a little confusing. And so when Cece has to go to first grade, she finds out that they're actually moving, and so now she will not be in a class for deaf children. So her life gets even more confusing as she tries to make friends. And one of the things that happens, and just to show an example of how confusing it could be, she gets invited to a sleepover, but when she's at the sleepover, she has a really hard time participating in it because, see, the girls go to sleep and turn off the lights. And suddenly Cece has no idea what is happening, nor can she discuss the movie that they watch because she couldn't understand half of it. So this makes it for a not so happy sleepover. Eventually her doctors decide that she needs a better hearing aid, and so she gets a new one. And this new hearing aid has little cords that come down to her hearing aid, and then her teacher has a wireless microphone that she has to wear around when she talks just so Cece can understand. But what Cece soon discovers is that Cece can actually hear everything the teacher does, including when she uses the restroom. Suddenly, Cece feels like she has superpowers because she's able to know everything the teacher's doing. And so she develops this alter ego called El Defo. And El Defo's superpowers are knowing everything the teacher's doing. Pretty soon, her friends are going to find out about this superpower, and life is going to become a little easier than it used to be for Cece. This next real life story is about something you might have heard about in the news lately. Maybe you've heard about children who are immigrants who are being separated from their families when they cross the border. Perhaps you've wondered why on earth would these parents risk such a dangerous thing if that's what it's going to lead to. Maybe you've wondered what the children's journey is actually like. So Sonia Nazaro is an award-winning author, and she wondered the same thing. And so she set off on an expedition in order to meet children who actually did this journey. In May 2000, Sonia meets Enrique. Enrique is now 17 years old, and he has just completed a 1,600-mile journey starting in Honduras up through Mexico to the northern end of Mexico. His story begins when he was 5 years old. He used to live in Honduras with his mother Lourdes and his sister Belki and his grandmother. Lourdes was having a really hard time making ends meet. See, she didn't have an education and she just took odd jobs here and there. These odd jobs would end up giving her like $30 for the entire month, and rent alone was $40. She couldn't even send her children to school because she didn't have money to buy their school supplies. She finds this very sad, and she's concerned about their future. And so she decides to come illegally to the United States, and she has to leave her children behind. When she comes over here, she ends up doing odd jobs as well, cleaning homes, working in restaurants. At these jobs, she is abused. She's paid less than the minimum wage, which she's supposed to get. And she's having a really hard time. As life goes on, she eventually falls in love with a man and has another child called Diana. But soon that man goes back to Honduras, and so once again she's a single mother trying to raise her child. Meanwhile, it has been 11 years since Enrique saw his mom in Honduras. He was 5 when she left, remember? His housing situation has not been ideal. It has actually been pretty bad. He has been getting sent around from home to home with relatives, and for one reason or another, he keeps getting kicked out. On top of it, school has not become such a priority for him anymore because it's more important to put food on the table for himself, since he has to make his way on his own. With the lack of guidance and the lack of support from the family, he ends up falling into bad habits. Soon he starts stealing, then he starts sniffing glue. Eventually, this is going to lead into drug use. He falls into despair and he feels really unloved by the family, but more importantly by his mother. See, he has never understood why on earth his mother would leave him and his sister and abandon them, basically. So he decides to come and find his mother because he thinks that that will be what's best for him, and that is what's going to help him survive. Along the way, Enrique is going to get odd jobs, just washing cars, and eventually he will make his way into La Bestia. La Bestia is the train that runs from the southern end of Mexico to the northern end of Mexico, and it is the train that thousands of kids end up taking in order to come to the United States. Along the way, he's gonna run into murder, theft, maulings, organized crime, and yes, even humanitarians who are there to try to help him. If you want to find out what happened in his life and how this is all ending, please read the book. Moving on. A Great and Terrible Beauty by Libba Bray. Gemma is a 16-year-old girl living in India with her parents. On her 16th birthday, she has this vision of her mother committing suicide because she's trying to get away from this shadow who is chasing her and her companion. And when Gemma wakes up, she realizes that that wasn't actually a vision. It's what actually happened, and her mother's now dead. Her father falls into a deep depression and can't take care of her, and so her grandmother brings her to London. Upon arrival, though, grandmother notices that Gemma is quite a wild child, and she decides that she needs to go to finishing school to become a proper young lady. Gemma quickly realizes that this finishing school is not really going to be a lot of fun because she's constantly being picked on by a popular clique of girls, along with her roommate, who they also dislike terribly. So, Gemma turns to books to find some solace, and along the way she finds a diary from a former student who attended the same girls' school, finishing school. In this book, the girl talks about the realms, which are a world between worlds and a place where anything can happen. Gemma thinks this is a pretty strange thing to be writing about, but stranger still are all the visions that she keeps having. These visions include her mom, who is supposed to be dead but can have full-on conversations with her, Katrick, a young man who she has started to fall in love with, and a different world, which seems absolutely amazing. Soon, Gemma's going to realize that these visions of this world are actually the realms that the diary was talking about. The realms are a place where the Order comes to hone their magic. The Order is a group of people who want to harness the magic and bring it back with them to the real world to serve their own purposes. But they can't because they're not powerful enough. Gemma is the only one that's powerful enough to do this. So she becomes a target and her life is now in danger. Katrick is now her guardian and protector, and he has to try to save her from the Order. Will Gemma be able to keep the magic in the realms, or will the Order bring it back to the real world to serve their purposes? Will Katrick be able to save her? Will she finally become a proper young lady? Find out when you read the first installment of this trilogy. Julia is a 14-year-old Mexican-American girl living in a very traditional Mexican home, which is old-fashioned and very strict. She's got this sister called Olga, and Olga is your perfect Mexican daughter. See, she works to contribute to the family. She goes to community college. She never ever dates. In other words, she's perfect. Soon, though, as tragedy hits, Olga dies. And suddenly, it is Julia's role to become the perfect Mexican daughter, but she's far from it. It is expected that perfect Mexican daughters stay at home until they are married. However, Julia loves writing, and she really wants to go away to college and become a writer. This goes against her mother's wishes, and so her mother becomes really angry with her, and that leads to a lot of fighting between them over everything. As everyone around her falls into a depression over Olga's death, Julia instead decides to keep her memory alive, and so she delves into her sister's things in order to find out more about her. As she delves into her things, she discovers a secret, a life-altering secret that no one knew about in her home. She starts to look around and try to find more information so she can figure out what her sister was really like. Along the way, she's going to meet Connor, a white boy from a really privileged home who has nothing to do with the world she currently lives in, and he really doesn't understand it. But for some reason or another, he still really wants to hang out with her. She's going to travel to Mexico, where she's going to learn about her parents' past, and hopefully that will help her understand their current present. She's also going to learn more about her culture, which she's always criticizing and heavily dislikes. Sex, married men, babies, What was Olga's secret? Will Julia appreciate her culture? And what about Connor? Is he going to rescue her, or does she need rescuing? Find out when you read Julia Erica L. Sanchez, I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter.